Welcome to Right On, the podcast from Final Draft. This is the show where we talk about all things screenwriting. I'm your host, Phil Galasso. On today's episode, guest host Sharday Sellers chats with TV writer Taylor Orsi, best known for their work on Vida and the Emmy-nominated series Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast on Netflix. Taylor discussed getting a job writing for Vida through Twitter, their experience with the Sundance Development Lab, writing their first feature, and more. Check it out.
Welcome back to Right On, everyone. We're still celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and I have such a special guest with me today. When I say this resume is long, this resume is long. Okay, so give it up for my new friend. I'm not going to make the joke because we'll get to it. Taylor Orsi. I was going to say my new friend who's trapped in the closet, but no one's going to know what that is. You're really physically recording from your bedroom closet, though.
I am. My, wait, here, these are my closet doors, if you can hear them.
Ooh, it sounds like money. That's the richest closet door I've ever heard in my life.
Ooh, thank you. Yeah,
that's how you know you're on a budget. You want to just, but yours is clean. Just
I think it was a real Hail Mary about what kind of sound that was going to be. I just hope that it was a believable sound.
No, our editor is going to go in and put like a foghorn instead. It's going to be great.
Oh my gosh. That's what I love about this podcast is how it's like the morning zoo antics.
Exactly.
It really helps me write.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but my laptop is on 2 paint cans right now. And if I go like this, you can hear some chair stuffing.
Ooh, you are living the dream.
If you want to know the secrets, I'm here to give them to you.
Well, let us talk about the secrets because I'm looking at your IMDb and I do want to ask about this one credit that I'm seeing. It's cracking me up on the inside. It's called Hilary Duff's Pregnancy Secrets. What is this?
This was something that was for Funny or Die back in the day. And oh my God. Again, so queer. Basically it's about unwanted hair at some point. It's like things you don't know about pregnancy, and one of the things is unwanted hair, I think. And I have a mustache. Just there, that's it. I'm somebody with a mustache. It was directed by Alex Fernie, and Hilary Duff was there, pregnant.
Amazing. And let's skip. So that kicked off your career, obviously. Like that got you the Oscar, the Emmy, the Tony.
Yeah.
The EGOT.
All the awards. I'm super embarrassed about, and they're in the closet with me actually. Like this is a Tony. Yeah, that's my Tony Award. I won for my one person musical of Sweeney Todd. This one is my Oscar.
I would watch a one-person adaptation of Sweeney Todd. I really would. That sounds amazing. We should probably get to questions before I get fired.
Sure.
But
I'm really good at just Yeah,
I know we could talk for forever, but I'm really interested in the beginning of your journey. So for people who don't know you, your most notable credit lately after Hilary Duff has been Vida. That was on Showtime by Tanya Sriracha. And you have Stars. Thank you. Stars. Thing I don't. Yes. Thank you. Stars
with her Tanya Sriracha. Yeah.
Sriracha. Thank you. Sorry. See, this is why I need you. But let's go back in the time because you have some stuff you produced. You have some acting stuff. You've got some writer stuff. So let's talk about where you started in your career and how we got all the way up to Vida.
Yeah, I started, I really thought that I was going to be like a writer for The Daily Show because I was a journalist, actually. I was like a journalist for NPR. And when I was still in college, so I was a really young journalist. And I was like, oh, I love stories. And then I was like, I'm really goofy. And I was like, well, I got really cocky because I had gotten really successful as a journalist early. So I was like, yeah, I'll just move to New York and write for The Daily Show. And then I got my ass kicked for a while because I couldn't write a joke. Like I wasn't funny. I was awful. And so I just sucked in New York for a couple years and then came back and basically started to make little videos for my dinky YouTube channel, and then eventually was performing more at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in Los Angeles. It's always hard to remember the before time stuff. You're like, yes, the theater, which I used to perform live. And then did the CBS Diversity Showcase. And from there, just again started to kind of like make my own stuff, because when I was still especially developing my voice, if I wasn't on the mark, then it was like, why are you so weird and sad? So that doesn't necessarily lend itself to comedy that easily. But then a video of mine called Bitchy Resting Face went viral. And that's really kind of where everything started. Like Stephen Colbert says this thing where it's like, oh, people ask me how I got here, and I say a series of overnight successes. And I remember hearing him say that and going, ha ha ha, that's so smart. What does it mean? And like, now I get it, because it's like, well, you started here, but maybe you started here, but where it really started was. And so for me, that would probably have to be Bitchy Resting Face. Because then, I got to be on the Today Show, and then I got contacted by a buddy who was a producer on a Comedy Central show, and basically saw some videos I was doing on my YouTube channel for a web series I was doing called Broken People, which I just thought was, the silliest fucking dumb thing I was doing for myself. And then that eventually turned into a series for Comedy Central. And, you get the ball rolling.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Look at that. Talking about self-made, you've had a hand in everything since the beginning of your career. So then a little birdie has told me that you saw something on Twitter about Vida looking for writers. Yeah.
So I had finished writing on Kipo, which was, which was animation. And it was just a couple months off the show. And I was like, oh, I should be looking for another job. And then I was on Twitter. Yeah. And I was such a big fan of Tanya Saracho. My family is from the area where Vida takes place. And I grew up there when I was a little kid, and she was looking for writers with the WGA staffing hashtag that Latoya
Morgan.
Thank you. Latoya Morgan started, giving her credit for that. And I was like, it was such a Hail Mary. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this big shot playwright that's literally on the list of like top Latinx writers in the history of the mundo. And you're just like, yeah, hey, what's up? And then she's like, hey, send your info to my person. And I'm like, the fuck is happening? And then we met up, and just instantly there was a connection. It was so wonderful. And I felt really understood. And then when I was talking, because sometimes you never know when you go into shows about like Latinx identity. I had an interview one time for a show. I won't say what it was, but I came into the coffee shop in Highland Park, and that's Northeast LA, so that should be Latinx area. And I met the guy. I thought he was Latino, and it turned out that he was just Jewish from New York, and he was the showrunner of this Latino show. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry I kissed you. Because I kissed him on the cheek, because that's how we do. And then I was wondering why whatever. Anyway, yeah, Tanya. Oh, and so I just kind of felt like during the meeting when I met up with her in person, I just kind of had my notes, because as you can tell, I ramble. My writing's in the edit.
I get it.
And I was like, oh, I'm also a drag king. And she was like, oh my God, I've wanted to do drag stuff. King stuff.
Yes. Now for those who don't know, not me, because I know, but what is a drag king?
Well, drag queens.
Mm-hmm.
These are kings. That's basically the easiest way to say it. And people just are still so surprised. I think kings are a lot of times they're AFAB, like assigned female at birth, although you could do people who are just using the same type of, camp, comedy, lip syncing, all of those things in order to, have some fun and make some commentary on gender.
But you're being very modest, because you're not just some drag king. You're very well known around LA.
Oh, thank
you. So, I mean, it's very cute to hear you say, I also dabble. I'm like, no, you you have like a following. You like people follow you to shows. So
oh, thank you. Yeah, I like most recently, like I had never had my drag name chanted, and people started chanting, and I was like, whoa. Sweet.
See what I mean? Yeah. So you got to meet with Tanya. You told her about your background, and then like, what was the hiring decision of like, yeah, you're going to be on the show?
I feel like everybody knew before me for some reason. I went on I went to see some family in New Mexico, and I still hadn't heard. And even at one point, Tanya messaged me and was like, hey, have you heard anything? And I was like, what? Because I had to, at that point, have a meeting with the executives over at Stars, and I hadn't met with them yet, I don't think. And then it was about 3 weeks before I heard anything. And then I was with my friend Scotty Landis at a bar, just having drinks. And then I got a message from my manager at the time that said, like, you got it. And I was like, oh my God, I got it. And then Scotty opens up his backpack that looks like a hamburger, and there's a bottle of champagne in it, and he's like, I knew it. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I talked to my friend Vico a couple days later, who was later a drag king alongside me in the series, was like, yeah, I know, Tanya told me. And I was like, why did everyone know but me? Like, I could have really used those 3 weeks to, like, you know, not stress out about this opportunity of a lifetime. But thanks, my friends. Thank you, all my friends.
It's very sweet, and what a good friend to have a bottle of champagne ready in the hamburger backpack. I love everything about that. That's what my friends would do. So because there's so much I want to ask you, but what's the biggest lesson you learned as a staff writer on that show while you were there?
Oh, to like shut up.
That's me too.
Right? It's like, you know, no hard feelings, but you need to know when to shut up. No, I think that it was important for me it was important to know, like, this is why you are in this room. The showrunner needs you for this purpose. And with Kipo, because it was such a small room, it was a real all hands on deck situation. And also
Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beast.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
The Emmy-nominated series.
Yes.
The Age of Wonder Beast.
Yes, and that you just wrapped that last year?
I wrapped it a few years ago. It just came out.
Right.
The last season came out last year. It's such animation is in such a weird time void that it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, maybe I wrote it before I was born, before you came. Yeah, no, I think the most important thing is to understand, like, what the showrunner is looking for from you. So, like, Tanya is looking for different things from the staff writers than she is the story editors, than she is the producers. And that's different for every showrunner. And so for Tanya, it was important that we, you know, pitch texture, pitch private moments, pitch things like that, which is a great thing as a staff writer to cut your teeth on. And also, when you pitch, to really craft it out. Like, I would write out what I wanted to say on a piece of paper, in my notebook. What am I talking about? On a piece of paper. in one of my fucking 5 notebooks I have, and just look at it. And then after all the more important people have talked, look at my pitch and say, like, is this still relevant? And then if so, pitch it out. Just don't just say words and talk off at the mouth, because that's true in any room I've been in. That's just a waste of everyone's time to just like get like, unless that's what the showrunner wants. But yeah.
And then so from Hilary Duff's, from bitchy resting face to Hilary Duff's pregnancy secrets to Vita and then Kipo.
Yeah.
What do the moments in between jobs look like? Are you writing your own samples or in specs? Are you trying to, are you taking meetings? Like, what are the moments in between shows like for you?
There's a lot of stuff that I've always been working on my own stuff. I know we talked about LaToya Morgan. LaToya Morgan said they don't do this. So, but I always have for myself been working on a project while I'm working on another project. I love to think about a lot of different types of things. I am a writer that crosses genres. So if I'm writing a fantasy thing, it's fun to write a crime drama or something like that, like just to exercise all of it, keep it fresh. So when I was on Kipo, I had sold a show that I starred in and directed the pilot for, called She Said Yes, which was based off an Elle article I wrote for Elle magazine for YouTube Red at the time. And that had Margaret Cho in it, which was awesome. And so I was kind of working on that while I was, in the Kipo room. And then also, let's see, like I'm thinking like, last year I was, doing a bunch of development stuff that doesn't go on IMDb. Like I was doing some development stuff for DreamWorks last year, which was super fun. And then wrote a film, a live action feature for New Line Cinema.
Nice. There you go.
Last year. Yeah. And then I also decided to like go back to school to just finish my bachelor's in the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. You're the most productive closet person I've ever met.
I'm in the closet.
Why is your computer on Paint? We need to get you a proper desk. Imagine.
It was, my major in school was international development studies, and just with everything in the world, I was just like, all right, I want to just take these like 2 more classes to get this degree. So
wow. I feel my mother, my immigrant mother, my family's from Belize. She was born in Honduras. She would love you. She's like, see, Sharday, she went back to school.
Yeah.
You could do it too.
and when
I'm so sorry. They went back to school.
Oh, that's all right.
You went back to school, and you could too. That's really the point I was trying to get across, is that my mom would love you.
Oh, thank you. Tell your mom I said what's up.
Right.
But no, and I know, like when I graduated, I was like, oh, Dad, like I went back to school, I graduated. He was like, okay.
That's the kind of parent I want, right? Because my mom knew I could staff on a show, I could go finish line producing a movie, and my mom would go, so ever think about going to get your degree? Like, Mom.
Oh, she's like, education no matter what. Yeah, I get that. With my parents,
right? Like, she's like, how much money did that make?
Oh my God, yes. She's like, it's a podcast. And that's when Kipo got nominated for an Emmy, my dad was like, so did you get a statue? And I was like, no. Like, and even if I did, you wouldn't care. It was his birthday yesterday. I called him up. I was like, Yole Papa. I was like, happy birthday. I made you a card that you probably won't like. And he was like, yeah, I might not. Was
I love parents. I love parents. Right. Yeah. My mom's birthday, she's a Leo, so she likes to go all out. She's like, what, you didn't send the flowers, the horse, the diamonds, where's everything? I'm like, I sent you this card. She thinks I make way more money than I do. Well, outside of writing, you're also a really big advocate for the trans community, and I want to talk to you about that and why that's so important to you, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, I mean, I think that trans identity and non-binary identity is not new. I think especially in like communities of color, we understand that we have some sort of attachment to the past in terms of like two spirits, or I was always taught growing up from my abuela that our Navajo or Pueblo people have 5 genders. She wouldn't go into it after that, but she'd be like, we have 5 genders, and then continue to like pluck out the hairs on her face, I'm sorry. I know my abuela's in heaven now, but she probably wouldn't like that I just said that. Anyway, whatever.
Both of mine are too. Yeah. So I feel for you.
Yeah.
So she's an ancestor now. We've all gained our ancestors again.
But I think that there's, especially in like POC cultures and Latinx culture, you understand that there's in the indigenous aspect of your heritage, that there is a spectrum when it comes to gender identity. And so I think that along those lines, it's intrinsically linked. Where I fell into personally is just I happen to have a lot of like Latinx trans friends or non-binary friends. Like my partner is Nika and Guate and is a 2-spirit, pronouns they, he, on testosterone. And, a lot of my other friends are indifferent. They are interfacing with their gender identity in a bunch of different ways. And a lot of them just so happen to come from Latinx backgrounds, or it's interesting, I guess. I don't know. I forgot what we were talking about. Sorry. Can I?
No. I'm really interested in just your passion for it. And what would you like to see change in terms of the Latinx community in regards to trans rights?
Oh,
I know I feel very specific about, especially being Afro-Latino, about Black people and their attitude towards trans. So I get very heated about it. So I'm just very curious in what you would like to see change in the culture.
Of course. So do you hear it?
No.
Oh,
yeah, okay. No, I hear nothing. Your mic is good.
In the closet, it's all about the closet. R. Kelly is a criminal. So there, Yeah, I think that, the issues of machismo are pushing, these toxic aspects of masculinity, particularly in the Latinx community, where you have, men needing to fit a very rigid role. It's very confining for everybody. And it's growing up, I had a lot of queer friends because I came out as bi and later just queer when I was about 12 or 14. And so it just became really clear that at the time, queer kids weren't protected by the education code, the anti-discrimination clause in the California Education Code. And I noticed that a lot of my friends that, didn't come from loving families or just people that were just, especially if they were families of color, you just kick your family out. There was more incidences of violence, more incidences of homelessness. I had a buddy who I would hang out with a lot. I had a lot of I'm kind of just discovering this with you right now, but I had a lot of friends that I now understand were kind of homeless, doing, sexual favors with adults to get by. I took that with me into my adult life. And you can just see that not only when it comes to the expression of who you are, it can become all of the incidences of violence, of poverty, of just not being able to express yourself because of certain limitations. It just becomes like a boiler pot. Is that a word? It becomes just concentrated, and it doesn't match up, right? Like if you have these historical links to these divergence in the gender spectrum, and then you see in present day your friends getting, bricks thrown at their head and getting their lives threatened. And then you see other people just being like, well, I'm rich and nothing affects me and I get to do whatever I want. It's just, it's a different world, So a lot of like the performances that I'm a part of a drag troupe called Femme Fatale. And a lot of things are with fundraisers, in the community, the Black trans community, the brown trans community. We did a fundraiser for trans community in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. All of these things.
Wait, where can we find the shows? Is there a website?
Well, Femme Fatale is like Instagram. So there's
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a website? You have a URL? I'm clearly old. The Instagram. Say it one more time.
Yeah, Femme Fatale. So kind of like Femme Fatale, but THEM.
Love it.
So
Love it. Okay, so we're gonna follow that. Let's bring this full circle then, because I asked you about the reflectivity of the community and what you like to see. Let's talk about through the media as someone who identifies as queer and you're behind the scenes writing.
Oh, man.
What is something that you would like to see change when it comes to networks working with queer writers in the room?
I think just more. I think that you need to have more queer people and POC people occupying levels of authority from, there's, staff writer, sure, but just from mid-level to upper level and to the executive level and beyond. Those are the people that we need to be seeing just more representation, more butts in seats in those seats, because different decisions are going to be made when you have those people in the room. I also think that, that it's not your like trans friend's job to educate you on trans stuff.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of that too. As a POC person and as a non-binary person, you kind of become this weird educator in the room for folks. And that's an emotional labor burden that you're not being financially compensated for. I don't have a prescription necessarily for that, but it's one of the things when I give talks to like groups, writer fellowship groups or things like that. It's one of the things that I like to bring up is just like, here's what you might encounter and here's how to handle it. Like people are going to try to be taking your ideas and people may not listen to you or people might dismiss you. I had a friend that was Korean American writing on a Korean animated show and like was trying to raise issues about being Korean and they just weren't listening.
Yeah. And you're right. That burden of being, I hate saying this, but a diversity hire where they are bringing you into the room because of your different mindset and your different experience. There's a very thin line between gauging experience and educating through your experience. And I always say there should be a consultation fee. Like if you have questions about what it's like to be, a person of color or underdeserved community from some background, then I need to be extra compensated for that. If I have to teach you about Black Lives Matter, if I have to teach you about any of these other things, there's a fee that's going to come with that.
Your personality and your stuff is on display, but a lot of times what that is tied to is trauma. A lot of the things you have to bring it back up, and with trauma you're re-experiencing that stuff, and you're not compensated, and actually folks are penalized because you have a history. Well, not history. You have people repeat lower levels all the time. And that's a phenomenon with, ACAB assigned female at birth folks or women and POC people, because you come in for that diversity hire and then you just stay at staff level. And that's that's interesting. Like for me specifically, when it comes to television, I have never gone beyond staff level. Have I written features? And currently, I've been an executive producer, I've been a director, I have starred in my own stuff, I've done this, and I am staff level. So it's sometimes you just have to take it into your own hands and do your own thing and just don't be bitter. That's the only, if I had one piece of advice to anybody, it's just listen, they're going to try to make you bitter. They're going to try to make you crazy. Don't get bitter. Just don't.
And we have reached the sermon part of our episode because everything they just told y'all is a whole word, okay? It's a word, especially I so related to you, Taylor, when you're I've done this and then that, and I'm still at this level when I've seen people, predominantly straight white men, straight white men, blow past me after one staffing position because they're able to go get a drink with the showrunner, and the showrunner doesn't want to get a drink with me because he thinks he'll be Me Too'd or accused of
turned on, or I don't know.
Exactly.
I've been in that exact position. Yeah. And that's why for myself, especially this year, and I think during the pandemic and hopefully next year, I'd be able to talk to y'all again and be check this shit out.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because it is important to not, for myself, to take things into my own hands and just be okay, well, I wrote a feature out of spite, basically, over the pandemic, and then was I'm going to take this as far as I can go. And now it's in the second round of the Sundance Feature Lab. And that's just what's up. It's I wrote that my grandma had died of COVID. And I needed no, it's all good. And it was tough though. It was one of, it was during the surge here, and it was tough. And I just had these feelings that had nowhere to go. And I wrote a feature about drag kings that has nothing to do with my grandmother, but it has a lot to do with where I go to find happiness. And I was transforming my grief through that to start writing about drag kings. And I literally wrote this feature in a month. I was mad because a well-meaning executive said, oh, maybe you need to apply to this, just unsolicitedly told me to apply to this, basically an internship thing. Mm-hmm. And I was just got nominated for XYZ. And I'm motherfucker, I'm still getting well-intended suggestions to basically be an intern. And I'm
wait, you know what? We could have a whole episode on that because the same thing happened to me today. I promise you now. I have a whole feature that came out 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And someone reached out to me and was oh, we have a writing assistant position. And I was but I'm not assistant level.
Right. And it's how to reject the well-intended advice. If I followed all the well-intended advice that people looked me straight in the eye and said, I'm trying to help you, I wouldn't have a job right now. Exactly. I wouldn't have a career. I wouldn't have anything. I would still be trying to get an internship at UCB or whatever,
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with internships or writing assistant positions, right? We're just saying.
But when you're 10 years into the game.
Exactly.
And they say.
10 years and credits under your belt. Like I said, money long, IMBD long. Hillary Duff is on my name. Do not cover me.
I don't know. At a certain point, you're I have to
stand up for yourself. Yeah.
Yes. And
demand higher for yourself.
Yes. And it's there's only a specific, it's up to you to know when to stop getting paid in exposure.
Ooh, ooh. Ooh, you are killing me today with these quotes.
I'm saying like, oof, I did, because over in the pandemic, I did take myself to church I'm saying that in a very like, yeah, like, no, that's exactly what I did. I turned off the lights. I had to write this pilot for this, a thing that had gotten optioned. And I turned off all the lights and just turned on some candles. And I was just like, Lord, work through me.
Oh, yes, Jesus. Yes, work through me before I cut somebody.
Sometimes, with those things, this job requires you sometimes to dig deep and do that shadow work of like, how much am I going to get kicked around? How much am I going to let this pilot make me walk into traffic in a pandemic? Or am I going to, it's all about what you let yourself get into. I don't know. There's a better way to say that, but.
No, you've hit the nail on the head, and we could do a whole separate. I hope you come back, because I want to do a whole separate episode of everything you just talked about and the reality of being people like that look like you and me and identify like you and me in this writing community. But unfortunately, I have to wrap it up. And I'm going to wrap it up with this last question that you may have answered already.
Sure.
But just in case you didn't, what advice would you give your younger writer self? So whether it's that journalist from years ago or that first week on Vita, what advice do you have for your younger writer self?
You listen, just because people are talking like they're confident doesn't mean they are. And you've got it.
I love it. And it's full of shade and truth. Because ain't that the truth? It'd be the ones that talk the most with the chest out and don't know nothing. Nothing.
And you're just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And also just like, maybe if I could tell myself one thing, maybe the first thing would be like, you have panic disorder, go get medicated. This is why you constantly lose your train of thought.
I'm going to take you out for a glass of wine. If you drink, because you're the only second person I've done over 50 to 100 of these interviews. You're the only second person who has ever mentioned mental health when I ask that question. Oh, wow. Everyone else is usually like, believe in yourself, work hard, rewrite, first draft. And I love when writers are like, I might need to pay attention to my mental health, because this job is very draining on your mental health, and we don't talk about it. So
it will end you. Like that's, yes. and yeah, because I think there are so many things about my creative process that are tied to my brain. Who knew? And the frontal cortex specifically, that is like, that's the thing that shuts down where I'm like, oh, I'm tongue tied. I feel dumb. I don't know why I can't solve this right now. Or, hey, I'm having a panic attack in the Kipo room. I have to go to the doctor and get some meds because I'm having a straight up panic attack.
Everything happens for a reason. We were brought together for a reason, because you are my sibling. You were meant to be in my life.
I've always wanted to go to Belize, so if you've got the hookup.
Let's go. We go stay with my family.
Ale, girl, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me on this podcast. This was probably the best interview I've ever done. I really enjoy your spirit. I love your honesty, your candor. I'm going to check out one of your shows next time you're in LA, especially for Them Fatale. I got to check out that.
Oh my God.
You won't be disappointed. Follow them. All right. Well, please come back to us. And don't hang up, because I want to ask you some follow-up questions, but we're going to wrap up this interview here. You guys, it's Hispanic Heritage Month all month. Join us as I interview more lovely, lovely people from the community about writing. I'll see you next time.
Thanks to Taylor Orsi for coming on the show, and thanks to Sade Sellers for hosting. And as always, thanks to you, our listeners. If you liked this episode, leave us a review, and if you haven't already, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. For news about future episodes and more, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Draft Inc. and Instagram at Final Draft Screenwriting. This episode was produced by Kayla Guess with help from associate producer Emma Vranich. Music by T. Kelly. Thanks again, everyone. Until next time, write on.